thing. So we stand up for the Dollar Tree and basically
such as this thing here.
All right, I'm excited to have a guest.
The metal right here is poisonous. Everyone is.
Cuba is like they're under a dictator. RTD Live Talk, Detroit's #1 YouTube talk show. We are live for a Tuesday edition of the People's Talk Show. Excited to connect, as always. Looking forward to checking in and finding out what's on your radar and sharing with you what I've been keeping an eye on today and trying to better understand the degree of difficulties that people go through when there's a transformational shift in the domestic economy. And today I want to highlight the some of the headline stories, rather, of what's happening in Sri Lanka and how I attempted to reach out to the gentleman I interviewed a few weeks ago for a follow-up, but, haven't heard back from, two of my sources there. So I'm not sure if it's just, busyness on their side or perhaps things have changed. But, when currencies fail due to too much debt, it creates a very unstable environment. Therefore, people make decisions that they may or may not have thought of prior to the events unfolding. But we're going to get into that. But before I do that, I want to welcome first-time viewers to the community, as well. If you're a returning guest, definitely would love to hear from you directly. So when the phone lines open up, 313-462-0027 is the number to call and let your voice be heard. And more importantly, for those that are interested in getting a quick shout-out in the chat, let me know where you're watching from, and I would love to acknowledge your presence. And thank you for being a part of the fold. As always, it is great to be surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses of intellectual and very curious minds that the RTD community is made up of. So it's always a blessing. So appreciate you guys. Never want to take that for granted. And so before I dive further, for those that are tuned in as we speak, if you don't mind, hit that thumbs up button. Show your support for the channel. And just to remind you guys, the thumbs up, I think, does show your support for those that are looking to do something quick and easy. Just scroll down, hit that thumbs up button. But also just, builds me up a little bit. It's the equivalent of getting some dap from my fellas out there, and then a little bit of a hug from the female out there as well to support the channel. So appreciate you guys. All righty. Let me check in real quick and acknowledge a couple people. Then I'll jump into some headlines, share my 2 cents, and some of the similarities of things we can learn from what's happening with the Sri Lankan crisis, on top of whatever else you guys want to touch on. We got Crypto Chris Card. We got LBP. We got Colony. We have, Barlight Broker checking in as well. Brushing his teeth again. Okay. Dude boy. We got Dominique checking in as well. We got Eddie checking in. We got G. From Cali, we got Jojo, Tricky Dicky checking in. What else? We got Angie, Jesse B, Joanne checking in as well. Great day to you. JBW, Dominic, I said that. Will Smith. Okay. Appreciate you guys. What else? We got Armo, Jesse B from NC. All right. Fair amount of people, man. As always, appreciate you guys for checking in and hanging out with me a little bit. Won't be long today. This week, due to the weather changes, also Memorial Day weekend is, festive. It's festive. It's a festive holiday season, as well as my birthday time frame. So I'm going to try to shake stuff up on a day-to-day basis. But nevertheless, we'll check in. But here we have right on the screen over here, as you guys can see this over here. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Definitely would love to connect with you guys more often. Got, more content coming as always. And just always trying to find ways to further educate. That's the goal here. Educate and help people think beyond what we're told and transcend our thought process to something higher. And of course, that has to do with the spiritual essence of this, current time we're living in. Anyway, all right, let me just jump into some of the headlines real quick. I won't rant much. I just want to share my 2 cents on some stories and, try to, I guess, connect the dots or whatever that's called. But I want to touch on Sri Lanka just because, and of course, Mark is here in the red, whatever. But once again, it's nothing new. The concept of investing was destroyed the moment we went sub-zero with interest rates or negative interest rates. Because one thing you cannot insure your retirement account. So it's subject to market conditions and nothing can go up forever. So is it really investing if you have no, if there's no floor support level in reference to you being able to actually retain what you think is yours, i.e., the equities, bonds, and everything else in between? So yeah, so investing was flipped upside down, and I consider more so gambling. So I can understand the importance of more people getting into trading nowadays because you want to get in, get out. Not too many people actually hold things long term because there's no guarantees beyond the next Fed funds hike or pause or them deciding to go back to QE, whatever they choose to do. So anyway, but there's a lot we can learn. So anyway, just a headline here caught my attention. I thought I would start off with this because in hearing about scenarios that's happening on the ground in Sri Lanka, as well as seeing the charts and seeing all types of things, and then I'm going to end with the market conditions as well as the overall sentiment of life in this country here, having the reserve currency. So for Sri Lanka, it's a lot different because their currency is just a small domestic currency, and only the individuals on an island really care about it. But then again, once the debt implodes, and I'm just speaking in regards to that country there, once the debt implodes, it becomes unsustainable. The derivative or the ripple effects impacts currencies and everything priced with that currency within that country. And that's kind of what I'm hinting at with all this stuff I'm talking about here. But real sweet and simple. I'm going to run through these headlines. And if you guys are interested, as always, you can just Google these headlines and read them for yourself. But once again, regardless of what part of the world you're in, when I see other people go through issues, it touches my heart because I consider, the Sri Lankan people my brothers and sisters, even though I've never met them directly. And so when they hurt, I hurt. And so that's why I want to, continue to just shine light on people's stories and try to put people's in better situations than, what's happening here because we can learn from these stories. But anyway, Sri Lanka is a small preview of a global, or I'll say Sri Lanka is a small preview of a domestic default crisis, is probably how we'll word this because, at some point, the global economy is going to experience similar side effects. But anyway, it just talks about here, gives some stories about how the difficulty of people's lives, cooking gas, lack of food, things like that. Just the complete disruption of everyone's day-to-day activity, regardless of what, class you fall in there, your life's been impacted because the currency is having issues actually being able to purchase things on the shelves if you can find things on shelves, depending on where you're at. And so here are some of the things I want to highlight. It says, so what does a country in default look like in 2022? And that's the primary focus. Let me zoom in some so you guys can see. So here are some of the things that a default, what it looks like in a country. So just for somehow, some reason, wherever you're at in the world, this country, another country, put yourself in the position of a country that's in default outright, where it's public knowledge. Everybody's experiencing the same thing. This is what it looks like. Armed soldiers are on the streets, and there's day-long queues for gasoline and cooking gas. Harvests are down by 50% because farmers either cannot afford to cultivate crops or they're only growing enough for themselves because there's no fuel to transport what they've produced. Pharmacies are running out of medicine, and hospitals are dangerously short of life-saving drugs and devices. Incomes are shrinking, and inflation is accelerating above 30%. Parents are eating just one meal a day so their children can have three, while doctors report that patients are rationing essential medicines for serious conditions like heart disease and diabetes. There's also growing unrest. Protesters may not be burning down family homes of the ruling Rajapaksa clan as they did on May 9th, but there are daily demonstrations throughout the country call for the resignation of their president. Police and security forces are pushing back with water cannons and tear gas. It's a tactic that risks tipping the country further toward a broader rebellion. And so just that little two paragraph synopsis of what life is like in a country where default is taking place, that never is anything good whatsoever. And so somebody says, Mike, no sound. Let me see. Let me see. Let me know how my sound. Let me know if I got sound. Because I can hear myself. I see my microphone moving. Let me know if I'm good. Let me know if my sound is good. Okay, so let me get a thumbs up if the sound is good. It says you're good. Okay, appreciate you. So yeah, I got to be careful. We got some jokesters out there. But anyway, so quick 2-paragraph synopsis of what's happening on the ground in Sri Lanka. And once again, when they hurt, we hurt. We're all part of the same family in a sense. So here's another headline. Exclusive. So this so the next 3 or 4 articles I'm going to show you are the result of debt going wrong to where there's no avoiding it, there's no escaping it. Things will take place. There will be decisions made. And here's one that should have been made well before it got to the point of the government being forced to acknowledge that their debt load was unsustainable and that they could not maintain the amount of debt that they've taken on from the IMF and all their surrounding creditors. And so exclusive. Sri Lankan's prime minister says he will slash expenditures. So you mean to tell me your countries couldn't make do on their debt and you now just deciding to cut your debt load, to cut back on some of the things you couldn't afford to do in the first place? Yeah. So once again, when things go awry and things just become unsustainable, then the rationale kicks in and governments might say, you know what? Well, maybe we can't afford all this extra infrastructure spending and funding this and funding that and providing aid to other countries. We need to tighten up our own ship. But that's, once again, a political doesn't make any sense. But in a debt-based system, nothing really makes sense. But anyway, just a quick little snippet from here. But it says Sri Lanka's new prime minister said on Tuesday they will present an interim budget within 6 weeks. So do you mean for the next 6 weeks, there's going to be economic pain? But then again, this is only going to get worse because slashing the budget now would further take away from some of the promises that they already put out there. So they're not going to get funded. So it's going to be a spiraling effect of just complete pandemonium in their economy because they were already overextended, because that's what the central bank cartel has done to all governments all around the world. As I mentioned the other day, every Rothschild bank in all 180 whatever so countries are under the same model. There's no exception. It says slashing infrastructure projects to reroute funds into a 2-year relief program for crisis-hit island nations. So they're going to reroute funds in 6 weeks after they come up with the proposal and cut down on infrastructure. Yeah, that sounds like that's going to work. Too late for that. Next headline, real quick. So Sri Lanka increases the fuel prices. So not only was last week they had fuel crises due to the fact that the fuel pumps were running out and nothing was able to be brought to the island because they couldn't afford to pay for it. So now what gas they do have, now they're going to up the ante. So that further eliminates people's ability to sustain themselves, because now they're already having issues being able to maintain the debt load. But now the cost of getting the goods and services you need has just gone up substantially. And their infrastructure is completely different than ours. They have to use propane to heat their house and, propane for some of their vehicles, as well as gasoline. And so their economy is solely dependent upon energy in that sense, to where it's not being brought to them. They got to go get it. So anyway, real sweet and simple. It says a long flag move to mend public finances and combat its debilitating economic crisis, but the hikes are bound to add to a galloping inflation, at least in the short term. And so it says on Twitter, the petrol prices would increase by 20 to 24%, while diesel prices would rise by 35 to 38% with an immediate effect. So, right. And and apart from the fact their government can't hide the numbers, I would imagine if it wasn't so obvious, their government probably say inflation is only 8.5%. The CPI figures only show 8.5%. That's the type of stuff they probably hearing over there. You know what I'm saying? Like, but yeah, okay. It's hard to hide it when you get to this point. Anyway, that's just a headline. Next headline. It says India ships rice, other essentials to crisis hit Sri Lanka. So India, right above. But from the interview I did a couple weeks ago with my man from India, or from Sri Lanka rather, and one of the questions I put out there, I referenced India and Sri Lanka as if like they were, buddy nations, like they were good friends type nations, similar to the way the U.S. and Canada, like, Canada's, 20 minutes from me And so we're, good friends supposedly, but he's like, no, he's like, we don't associate, most of us don't associate with India. We don't like to be compared to Indians. We don't want nothing to do with that. And I'm like, wow, that's bad. That's different. I never knew that. But then again, on the flip side, we're told and we know that India and the Indians love gold. So they have a love for real money in the form of jewelry and things of that nature. And literally a couple 100 miles beneath them, Sri Lanka, he's like, they don't do gold down here. We don't do gold. That's the Indians. They do gold. And I'm thinking like, wow, like, that close, but a world of difference in reference to understanding how to protect themselves, culturally speaking, as well as just monetarily speaking. And so he said Sri Lankan people don't really have gold like that. They don't have it like that. So I'm like, dang, that's, so just stereotypically thinking like, because they're in the same region, they think the same. Just goes to show that, even my question was off. But anyway, so we got food coming, we got aid coming. Okay, sure, keep it moving. Now, here's something that can pinpoint what it's like on the ground there as of now. So here's a visual aid from somebody I grabbed today, and so it's one. No, this is posted at 1:12 in the morning, my time, I think. So they are, I think, 9 hours or 10 hours or something like that ahead, I think. Anyway, so here's just the different prices from a liter or a kilogram of whatever real world item that somebody needs. So we got red rice. Last year at this same time frame in May, rice was 101. I'm assuming that's probably rupees or whatever for, a kilo. I think, yes, give or take. But as of 1 year later, it's gone up 109%. Wheat is going up 175%. Sugar is going up 100%. Sprats went up 100%. Chicken, 120. Eggs, 93. Bread, 128. And the most expensive thing on here happens to be petrol, 92 grade, 259% increase from last year. Diesel, 231. LP gas, 226. So real world stats showing how affordability in that country has went downhill. And the biggest takeaway from that little rant I gave about the difference between India and Sri Lanka is that in India, the Indian people have real money in the form of they have currency insurance outside of their national insurance. So the difference can be somewhat absorbed as the fiat goes down. It's automatically rolled into the additional units in the gold and silver, making their real world wealth that much more valuable at that moment, affording them opportunities to be able to sustain themselves if there's items on the shelf to be had. Anyway, moving on. So here's another article that's just crazy. Like, amidst the chaos, there are still tourists going there, taking advantage of the opportunity to be in a very cheap area. And just, it's just interesting. So it says Sri Lanka is running out of food, medicine, gas, and it says and money and currency, but tourists just keep coming. And so here's a picture. There's a picture. Let me see, where is that? This is the one. There's a picture of a tourist on a bike. It looks like, let me see. Nope. So this is not wrong one. This is not the video, but Sri Lanka, from what I'm hearing, I've never been there. Let me know in the chat if anybody been there. But apart from all the events unfolding now, is I'm hearing it's beautiful. Of course, there's island life and things like that. Good weather, Indian Ocean area. But anyway, so there's a picture of a white guy or Caucasian male just standing on a bike taking a picture amongst chaos. It's like he just dressed like a tourist. I'm like, it's just, the safety issue has to be of concern, I'm sure. So Tony B says Sri Lankan gold is held by their central bank. Yeah, TB, for whatever that's worth, because they're going through a crisis right now, and the IMF has first dibs on that. So do the Sri Lankan people really have access to that? I would probably not feel confident that that gold is going to be used for the best interest of the people. That gold will more than likely be sold off to the IMF to make good on the debts that they owe, would be my opinion. Anyway, but there's things we can learn from this. So my point is that as times unravel, real world resources become scarce due to a variety of reasons: deliberate withholding, hoarding by the government for their own purposes to make sure the soldiers are paid and armies are fed so they can sustain their power. Then you have just the fact that most of the goods become hard to afford due to the fact that if you actually are a store owner or someone in business in that region, will you accept a currency that's being destroyed? More than likely. So you're going to either want more of that currency to make up the difference. Therefore, the black market price of an item will be night and day from a government price controlled item. So, like, I'm familiar with, Argentina because I pay attention there a lot. Right now, the Argentinian peso is 250 or so on the street, but the government says it's like 100. So you automatically go to the street to get more. But then when government subsidized items, you can take that street value, go get double of the government stuff, and once again, take the government stuff that you made a profit off of, take it to the street and sell it. So the whole underground market becomes very prominent. And if you have resources, it makes it that much more better for you to, as a capitalist, to unfortunately take advantage of situations like that. But that type of scenario, I believe, is something that's brewing, here right now. And I think of course, it creates opportunity for those that recognize it and take advantage of it. But another valuable lesson learned from this is that in every country, the conditions are always determined by the outcome of the government's financial books. Too much debt, which every country has, will ultimately show up in the valuation of the currency when it comes to what you can actually purchase. You will purchase less utilizing national currencies because that's baked into the cake. And of course, let me go ahead and just I love showing my visual aids here. You will spend more units and get lesser quality and lesser goods throughout time. That's the central banking way. It's called fractional reserve lending, which expands monetary bases on top of all the other ways that they've done it, the credit card swipe and usury and, the rehypothecation of assets to just cause a complete pandemonium. Okay, sure. So for those that were aware of the events well before now in Sri Lanka and had the foresight and the ability to take their working capital, put it into real world assets, whether it be things they needed immediately, food, water, shelter, clothes, whatever, or they were wanting to provide currency insurance for themselves by getting out of their fiat currency, redeeming some of their fiat currencies, and then putting it into, it's good to say Sri Lanka used to have a gold or silver coin type of currency 50, 60 years ago, probably before the Sri Lankan central bank came into it. But anyway, for those that had the foresight and the knowledge, were better off. So my point is, here is, let me see. So here is because I like to do comparisons of currencies. So let me use the USD, for example. So the USD to Sri Lankan currency. So let me just flip this around. So I like to do the inverted. So if you were in the Sri Lankan currency all throughout last year, it was relatively stable against the dollar, 200 rupees to $1. So whatever that I could purchase you. So if we were to go back here and just say, red rice was 101 for a liter or whatever that measurement might be. As of right now, you got to spend 200 or double basically. But not everybody, didn't receive double when it came time to get paid and everything in between. But yet, if you had redeemed some of those rupees and got into something else, gold, silver, or crypto, whatever might work best for you, then you would have been on the receiving end of that readjusting of purchasing power for that particular item. So anyway, as I mentioned a couple of videos ago, March 8th, it looks like March 7th, 8th, something broke. Bam, it broke. And ever since then, it's been on the way down. So right now, today, this is the official exchange rate. Mind you, on the streets, it's probably double there. So if it's 359 on the official market, this trading of Forex, it's probably just say, 500, 600 on the streets there. And so that's to get dollars. But dollars, because it's a world reserve currency, I'm sure carry a hefty premium in Sri Lanka. And so this is what it looks like if you were to invert that. To where The Sri Lankan rupee just literally, like I always use the metaphor, falls off a cliff. That day, March 9th, the rupee fell off a cliff, and it's been falling ever since. This is what I would consider a sub-zero currency, and it's not even down to where it's going when all fiat currencies get there. And this is just fiat for fiat. This is what the majority of the world runs to at this current moment for safety, and it happens to be the USD. But then again, here in the US, where do we run? We can't run nowhere to no other fiat currency because they are relatively trash. This is the cleanest one out the basket of dirty laundry, as I always say. But we can run to something else. There's a couple other things, but for simplicity's sake, I'll just throw up here. Let's put a little XAG on the table real quick. So if the Sri Lankan people would have ran to silver, if it was available for them, everybody's situation might be different. So if you, over the last year, it was just say on average, 4,500 rupees for 1 ounce of silver. When the system broke, it went from 52 all the way up to $8,500. So literally, you from 4, you basically doubled. You know what I'm saying? You doubled your purchasing power, relatively speaking. And mind you, this is the official COMEX-based price type of thing. So on the streets, if you were probably there and people realized the value of silver, it's probably double that. Same way it was fiat for fiat. So say 16,000 rupees. So you've gained that much more purchasing power relative to what you might be looking for in the streets, because the price of items in the real world will go up as well. But then again, if you're silver gold, because it's real money and it's recognized hopefully by a good portion of people, you gain that much more. You know what I'm saying? So in a world of stability, you'll have the ability to get what you need. In a world of chaos, you also might have the ability to get what you need plus some, depending on the environment you're in. And this is just silver here, real quick. And I'm gonna quick ranting. So the rupee inverted against silver is also went down, but it didn't fall off the cliff in comparison to the way it did with the dollar here. And then, of course, let me just real quick do gold for all my gold bugs out there. And this is just official market price. Street value is a lot different. And so here we got, let me go the other way around. So we got an ounce of gold per rupee. So literally, it looks similar to the way the fiat currency was, all fine and good. 360,000 rupees for 1 ounce of gold. And then when the system broke March 8th, March 9th, 700,000. And that's just the official price. Street value is probably double. So it could probably be literally on the street if somebody had paper available, you could probably ask for double that, which would probably put you at 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 million rupees. So just something worthwhile. So I say all that to basically come back here to the U.S. and to the developed world, G7 nations in particular, because conditions here, aren't that much better. Like, it's not really all that better, even though we have everything we could ever ask for in this country. But yet I wouldn't necessarily bank on that forever. And then here's just more stories to highlight the true conditions based upon the headline stories. But once again, it's probably worse for some, but better for some as well. A record 68% of American households said their savings could cover 400 emergency 2021. So once again, just those figures, this $401 is what the Federal Reserve uses in their little small survey that they send out. And to think like this $400 has probably been their measurement for quite some time now. And here we are, 2022. They just created 30% of the monetary base within the last 2 years, but they didn't, double that at all. To say at least you doubled, almost damn near double the monetary base, but yet you didn't double the little emergency question. So if you'd have put 1,200 emergency, it'd probably say a record, 85% of American households don't have $1,200 saved up. That's how, distorted people could be. Because unfortunately, a lot of people, when probably asked about this question, they'll probably say something like, "Oh, I got 400 on my credit card." You know what I'm saying? They won't say I got 400 cash or 400 in the bank. They'd be like, "I got 400 emergency credit card." Because mind you, with the role of consumer credit in this country, it's been looked at as a emergency measurement rather than just like what 30, 40 years ago used to be a luxury to be able to swipe a card. Now it's like, okay, you swipe a card, no problem. You ain't got to swipe a card. You can just go on PayPal, check out, and then they'll finance you on like a $10 item. Anyway, keep it moving. American shrinking middle class is barely keeping up. And then this goes to just some very alarming figures here. So this is from Pew. It says how the American middle class has changed in the past 5 decades. If people are interested, they got some very interesting graphs here. It says share of adult U.S. middle class has decreased considerably since 1971. So we got 71. The middle class was approximately 61% out of the entire pie. Now it's down to 50%, if that. Take of it what you may. Just more interesting graphs here. I'm not going to bore you with all that, but just, it's just interesting to see the stats according to their measurements. Take it for what it's worth. And then here's the global picture. This is the global picture. Global debt surges. It surges to the record 3.5 trillion. How do you pay back 3.5 trillion? The answer is easy. You create another 3.5 to pay the interest and the principal on the prior 3.5, expanding it to, was that 6.610? You know what I'm saying? That's how you do it until something breaks. And of course, it's led by the U.S. and China. China's still quantitative easing right now, while the U.S. is supposed to be dialing back. Oh, something's got to give. Can't have one global power pulling. You can't have one global power literally pressing the brakes right now, and then another global power hitting the gas. We're hitting the brakes, supposedly. They're hitting the gas, and it's just going to create that much more chaos. But it is what it is. And then the very last article here, it just reflects the perceived notion that the developed world has taken on, that assets on somebody's computer screen with a monthly statement verifying your wealth or worth, net worth or whatever, how it's all subject to market conditions, not just in your own country, but globally. And so it says a 5 trillion wealth shock is cracking Americans' nest eggs. And that's referring to the fraudulent valuation of overpriced assets that are not able to maintain their current valuations without additional financial accommodative policies from the Federal Reserve, as well as easy lending from commercial banks, to allow people to think that wealth on a screen makes up the bulk of what they are and what they have. So that's my little rant, but I'll dial back on that one. So let's talk real quick. For those that are plugged in, hopefully some of this stuff made sense, but my whole point was to highlight Sri Lanka and show how people who had foresight, they were able to do some things differently just to improve their situations slightly. But it's all temporary, because no one can have enough sustenance maintained to get through months or years without having to pivot, make some adjustments, whatever. So it all boils down to, much more than just natural preparations, in my opinion. But I'm not going to go that route right now. Anyway, let's talk. Let me hear somebody's voice. Feel free, give me a call. Would love to hear some thoughts, ideas. Of course, we got Davos and World Economic Forum. We can go on and on and on talking about the kingdom of darkness, but yet, they're a defeated foe. But then again, it will be interesting to see how things roll out. Like, I think the intensity of how the globalists will try to ramp up things after this next week. Once the Davos people, Klaus Schwab and crew, they're going to leave rejuvenated. They're going to enter back and go back to their countries, all in unison with a continuation of the agenda. And that's to shrink government, expand their controls. And if that signature is signed on that pandemic treaty, then we're all going to be introduced to new policy and procedures from our so-called political representatives, and in the next couple of weeks. So this year is just more things to, more excitement for this year. That's all that means. Anyway, Mike, we get hit. You want to what to say? Let me see. Let me see. I missed that. I missed that. What's the question here? Oh yeah. So yeah, Tedros. Okay. Yeah. So it looks like Bill Gates, hype man, received another 5 years um, commitment for the World Health Organization, and so that's I guess he's done such a good job that they wanted to reward him for his allegiance to the globalist society of whatever. Hello, Carlos. Where are you calling from?
Milwaukee, Wisconsin. How you doing, brother Mike?
Doing good, my friend. What's in your mind today?
Hey, listen, I want to share a quick story to get your thoughts and advice.
Okay.
I started investing in silver egos. My cousin got me into it back in 2004-05, and I was buying like 200 a month. And, they would send me, a stack of silver egos, and I didn't really understand the value and all of that good stuff. So, maybe 4 or 5 years, I took a bunch of them to a coin dealer, and he gamed me. He pulled out an old book, and he gamed me. I didn't know anything about spot price and premiums or anything like that. In the upcoming future, how people who have silver, such as myself, how will we trade it? Because if only a small percentage of people hold precious metals, if we're using it to barter, they might not understand the value. Right. So how can it be? How would you go about doing it?
Great question, man. So looking ahead, not knowing what type of conditions we'll be in, my first thought is, in accordance to the way they told us, you'll own nothing to be happy with. That means a lot of things gonna happen between now and that time. Because between now and the time I absolutely need to part ways with some metal, I will do my best to hold off. Like I would hope I don't have to cash in on an insurance policy. So that's my first thought. But if I had to, I'm gonna cash it in accordance to the things I need. And so I'd assume, depending on what I need, it'll be broken off into small increments. So assuming it's something life necessities, I would probably break it off. And I prefer to use the ounces and anything bigger than that to not touch. I believe in fractional. So I have a lot of 1 grammers, 5 gram, a lot of fractional silver, as well as the U.S. silver coinage to use for hopefully small item purchases. So break it up into categories in accordance with what I need, hoping to never need to touch the bulk of it, because that right there will be for transitional periods down the line, because we're going to go through some revaluations, especially, and I hope to not have to get rid of it forever for CBDCs or anything like that. So on the barter side of things, there will be some type of service app or some type of community that will probably help be mediators. Like there's always some inventions that spurs up during the midst of chaos, to where there'll be valuable sources you can use as guides. So that would be my idea. So I don't know how this will work out. I've never experienced anything like what I believe is coming. So I'm, open to ideas and suggestions too, but I never want to part ways with the bulk of it. I want to use fractional stuff for day-to-day stuff if need be. And down the line, if things do stabilize and I have it, then I'll transition in for real world items that produces currency of whatever is at around at that time, if that helps at all, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. I just wanted to share my public humiliation and embarrassment for my lack of knowledge, but I learned something. Maybe it was a worthwhile experience.
Yeah, I'm sure we all have our life learned lessons the hard way, where we did something we probably wish we could undo, but we know not to do it no more. And by sharing our story, we can help other people and save them the headache.
Yes, sir.
Hey, man, appreciate you calling, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, be good. Hello, Carlos. Where are we calling from?
This is Coolest White Dude, Yashkaba, Mexico.
The coolest dude. What's going on, man?
Hey, my wife and I are very excited about my brother from another mother, low blood pressure, moving to my ranch. I'm finishing, 5 beautiful rentals down here.
Yeah.
A bar. I don't drink. I rock, but I don't roll. Now, my friend, I painted these homes, by the way, in the color of money, silver, and gold. anyway, I wanted to ask you a question, and I did not want to talk about my great interview on Wise Guy Wednesdays last week.
Uh-huh. You kind of chop.
But
I hear you, but you're kind of choppy.
That I've asked the economist. Here it is. Do all stocks, bonds, ETFs, paper gold, all go to near zero in terms of purchasing power when the currency resets?
Mm-hmm.
The answer from several economists, all of them have said yes.
Mm-hmm. So everything. So the question you put out there, the economist, that you asked, I saw the email you sent me, is that when during resets, do everything denominated in papers, in that currency, stocks, bonds, house, real estates, go to zero? Is that that was the question, correct?
That's right.
And everybody said yes.
That's right. I mean, yes, I want to ask the people on live chat, yes or no.
Right.
What do you think? I think yes.
I mean, I think yes as well. But then I think, like Jeff's Clark response, because I did read an email, he said something about governments tend to step in before it gets down to that 0 point overall, just because if they don't, then they'll lose control of everything and it'll be absolute Mad Max type time frame. So, that's something, that probably will happen. But in all the prior cases, utilizing Zimbabwe, Venezuela, and all those other countries, even Weimar Republic, it never reached maximum pandemonium because they always had something to resort to in the form of their border countries' currency or whatever other reserve currency. So Zimbabwe went to the dollar, Venezuela went to the dollar, Weimar Republic went to the dollar, as well as gold and silver and other things. So that's why, like, in this current environment, all fiat currencies can probably go to zero. But then again, most people will run to the options that we have, which gold, silver, and whatever cryptos people choose to go to, or whatever one's been pumped up by the banks. But they're gonna run to something. So there'll still be some way of measuring value for items in that current time frame.
Yes, my friend, I agree. And gold and silver are money, have been for 5,000 years. This is pretty easy to see.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I talked about in that interview that I think is going to happen to crypto is something in business called the rule of two.
Rule of
Crest,
two.
Colgate, Pepsi, Coke, Uber, Lyft, Chevy, Ford, no more Chrysler. I think they all fail except for two. And I would guess that Bitcoin would survive because of name recognition.
Yeah.
However, the others go to zero.
There's definitely going to be a day of reckoning with the blockchain, and I'm excited to do more of my little Bankster magazines because I got more thoughts and ideas I want to share, because I've yet to see anybody really come at me on some prove me wrong. Like, I would love to be proved wrong so I can be corrected and stop being an anti-crypto guy. Like, if somebody can show me how my theses and my viewpoints are completely off, then I'll turn it into RTD crypto and become Bitcoin Mike and all that crap. If you can convince me beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is what it's supposed to be, which I don't think nobody can. So, but hey, man,
well said, my
I
friend.
appreciate you, my man.
I'll let you go.
Appreciate you. Be good, man.
That was great.
Thanks. Yep.
Goodbye.
Hello, Carlos. Where are we calling from?
Hey, this is Chris from LA in the UK.
Chris, what's going on, man? How you doing, boss?
I'm good, man. Just checking in. I was going to tell you, look up on YouTube, Bank of England governor of apocalyptic food prices.
Whoa, on YouTube?
Yeah, so if you go on YouTube,
okay,
the governor of the Central Bank of England, he said the other day that he said he didn't want to be alarming or be a gloom and doomist, but he was talking about the food prices could be apocalyptic.
Okay, I did see an article. Government
so it's like
UK.
a short clip. You can find one that's maybe a minute and something like that. The shortened version, but yeah, apocalyptic food prices. Just type in Bank of England apocalyptic food prices.
All right, that's a lot to type. That's a lot to type in with one finger. Okay, but I grabbed something though. Okay, so I got it on the screen. Let me put it up on the screen so people can see it. So because you're in the UK,
there's evidence that something's going to happen.
yeah. So you're in the UK, and when you saw that, did that catch you by surprise? On some, were you like, caught by that, or?
It's not catching me by surprise. I've known this for years. It's a matter of me being able to wake up the sheeple. I mean, including my in-laws. I've been telling them for the longest to stock up on food, and they haven't been listening to me. And it's funny because once my wife sent the video to her mother, and all of a sudden she's going to Costco now. So I think it just took the video to wake her up, and I've been telling her this for like 3 years.
Yeah. Hey, better late than never. So keep doing what you're doing, man.
People still not getting it. They don't believe it.
I
thought I'd tell you about that video because that's a central bank head that's out here, and that's talking about the food price is going to be apocalyptic. Like literally, there's going to be like Sri Lanka type situations going on out here, and people still don't believe it.
Right, and then so to me, based upon there being isolated pockets around the world that I've been covering over the last 7-8 years of doing this channel, to me, it just goes to show if you were to think long term, at some point it has to show up in your country's doorstep. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't be immune from these conditions, and we're all under the same system and the same governmental, heist, takeover. So, yeah, hey man, but I appreciate you, man.
Oh yeah, no problem, 100%. But yeah, I just wanted to pull that up. I mean, have you pull it up so that way, hopefully everybody else that's listening, they can look it up, and that'll make this a little bit more real to them as far as prepping and trying to get your cans up and your rice and all that.
All right, man. Let me get some more calls, man. Appreciate you, man. Yep.
Yeah.
Bye. Right. Hello, Carlos. Where are you calling from?
Hey, Mike, it's low blood pressure, Corpus Christi. How's it going?
LBP, doing good, man. What's up with you?
Hey, man, these high food prices the last caller was talking about. I can't wait, Mike. I'm going to be slinging bananas.
From your banana tree in the backyard? Or down in Mexico?
I'm going to have to give it to Yashkaba guy, and maybe instead of, smuggling, we're going to be smuggling avocados,
Yeah, man, whatever it takes to put food in your belly, man. What else going on, man?
Not much, Mike. Just waiting for the end, but the end doesn't come soon enough.
Hey, I'm happy with that, man, because when it comes, it ain't no going back. And from that point on, it's only so in that environment of just complete pandemonium, like even Sri Lanka, like it's a day-to-day more than for the majority. It's a day-to-day. When you wake up, you probably got to figure out what today brings, because the days of normalcy, as far as being able to stick to your routine, do what you do best, go where you usually go, will probably be adjusted for the majority. Not everybody, but the majority. And those are the people who didn't see it coming. They ignored it. They didn't want to see it. They lived in this cognitive biasness mentality type of state. So think about this. Even if things are great for you, the people around you going through their shift will ultimately impact you, because now you're concerned with them ultimately. You see what I'm saying? So, it's still going to be a very interesting day-to-day for humanity at that point, if we get to that, barring whatever.
I'm gonna be pretending like I'm hungry, Mike. I'm gonna be grabbing my belly so they'll think I'm one of them,
Yeah, but watch this. After a couple of weeks, if you ain't losing weight, they're gonna be like, this guy getting fatter. What is he doing?
Right.
Oh,
hey, Mike,
man.
look at Sri Lanka. They're getting the government officials. They're beating them to death, Mike. When is that gonna happen here?
I hope it doesn't happen, because we still the most heavily armed population. So it's not going to end pretty, but it's gonna be chaos regardless, because of most people not being aware of what's really happening, man. But hey man, I appreciate you, man, for calling in as always. Good to hear your voice.
All right, Mike, it's gonna be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh,
thanks for taking my call.
Yep, good deal. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. All right, let's keep it moving. What else is happening out there? So we got about 200 or so people out there. As always, I appreciate you for blessing me with your presence. If you have not already, I would encourage you to donate to the channel with just hitting the thumbs up button. It's free 99. Just hit that thumbs up button beneath this video, and it shows your support. And hopefully the algorithms at some point kick in to where more people are notified. Hello, Carlos. Where are you calling from?
Good, Mike. Steve, Region 9.
Steve, what's going on, boss?
Yeah, I'll keep it short so you can move on to the next callers. Yeah, I just sent you a email there with an excerpt from Klaus Schwab. If you can drop that into the queue for the guys.
Oh yeah.
And can the community get that out to everybody that they know?
All right, let me.
Ministers, whatever, get that out so people know who this guy is. Like I said, our community knows who this guy is, but like I said, a lot of people don't even know what the World Economic Forum is.
Yeah, I'm working on a video in reference to some statements Claus made yesterday, and I'm calling out believers. You know what I'm saying? It's a call out to all believers to take heed, because if the enemy is gathering and coming up with concocted plans, the body of Christ should be doing the same. But yet we've been hindered due to the tax exemption status that keeps the church from being able to critique or criticize what our government does. And that has to change now, or forever hold your peace, pastors. So I'm calling out all my pastors out there. You know what I'm saying? And watch this. Pastors don't necessarily mean those behind the pulpit. It's everybody that's in Christ, because we're all ministers of our own ministry. So if you have not been vocal in sharing your faith and calling out evil for what it is, then you fall under the category of a pastor. So don't just think because it's somebody's ordained, they got a congregation. If you got a family, I'm just ranting a little bit, so not to you, Steve, but I'm saying, like, if you have, 2 or 3 people in your household, you are the pastor of your flock, and therefore I'm calling you out too, whoever's out there looking at me. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I ain't talking about you. I'm just looking at the camera.
No, I know what you're saying.
Oh, man.
The minions need to be called out.
Yeah.
They need to be called out.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you can drop that in there,
for sure.
And go ahead and keep this show flowing, man.
Appreciate you, man.
I'm just listening now.
Thank you, man. All right. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Like, like right now, to me, and that's why, I'm on this, spirituality trip, just because I guess my hunger has been renewed in my spirit for truth, and I want to see truth prevail. And I know the truth will not prevail in this life, but I'm gonna do the best I can. And another thing that was pointed out to me the other day, in conversation with somebody in the community, we're talking about, your work, and then immediately some scripture was brought to my attention about, how, your deeds and your work, you carry that with you for eternity, and it'll be tested and tried by fire. And it was Paul speaking, I think it was in Corinthians, referring to, his ministry and the infiltrators of the early church, and how their agendas led some of the believers astray. And then Paul called them out, saying that, the people who are trying to build on his ministry, their works will be tested. And if it withstands the fire, it'll be something that would carry long-term, eternal weight. And I got to thinking, like, man, like, I do a lot of talk about real world events, news, bad news, World Economic Forum. But I'm like, talking about the enemy's work doesn't add to my heavenly account that I can draw upon in the next life. So I'm thinking, like, man, I need to really get myself in order as far as, how my message and my brand, I got to do some restructuring. And then that's where the idea of talking about what I enjoy the most, which is my passion for understanding kingdom concepts. And so I'm like, there cannot be a day in my life, whether I'm on the camera or in day-to-day activity or just in my alone time in prayer, where the words Jesus Christ doesn't come off my tongue in reference to some form of scripture that he puts in my heart. And then when I'm talking to other people, I don't care who it is, I have to mention the governance crisis we're experiencing, which is the battle between darkness and light. And there's 2 kingdoms clashing right now, and we're in the middle of this. So I have to be ready to talk about kingdom ideas, kingdom mannerisms, kingdom economy, kingdom ethics, kingdom politics, kingdom is what really interests me. So you're going to be hearing a lot more about the word of kingdom in my rants, because it's the most important subject matter in my life. I can be 100% with that. And I don't know nothing about it the way that the Lord is going to show me. So anyway, yes. So X says, Mike, thoughts on recycling plants catching fire? X, great thought there. I'm not even familiar with the recycling plants. I think let me see. I think I typed in something the other day, and I did not notice nothing popped up, but recycling. Let me see if I can type recycling plants on fire. So I typed that in. What comes up on my end for fire? Okay. Okay. So I'm seeing some stuff. So just type that in real quick. This is what popped up. 4-alarm fire at Phoenix recycling plant now under control. Did you see a large billow of smoke in central Phoenix? Here's what the fire is coming from. Fire a recycling plant on eve of re-inspection. Fire crew battles recycling plant in Phoenix. So yeah, apart from just hearing about it now, I did not even know about it. So appreciate you for bringing it to our attention, man. But between the processing plants, the recycling plants, and there's going to be a lot more fires going on, just because the enemy's primary one of the enemy's tools is diversion tactics. And so there's going to be 20 different stories all happening at once all the time, just to make sure that people got something to look at. But in actuality, they're building underground right now, and right now they're telling us what they're doing right in front. They're talking about New World with the O at the end. I gotta be careful what I say. So I said New World Agenda. Like, the fact that they are now promoting the New World Agenda publicly lets us know what time it is, because that used to be conspiratorial prior to 2 years ago, but now it's in front of us. So see how bold the kingdom of darkness is becoming, where the kingdom of light, we've been pushed into the closet. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of Christian closet or closet Christians rather, or just closet believers, we're being squeezed out of the mix, when actually we're supposed to be up in front, being the most vocal, being the most boastful, because believers in particular operate on truth. And that's the thing. The biggest thing is truth. Truth transcends this world. And that's where, there's only so much we can do between now and a time. Our time is up here, but it carries eternal weight. Like, you're going to be rewarded for your deeds now and in the life to come. And so it's like, man, this is just my call for my people out there. You know what I'm saying? Like, with what you put the most effort and work into, will it benefit you in the life after? Is what I'm gonna leave with you guys today. You know what I'm saying? That's where the Lord checked me on that. So I'm gonna just pass it forward. The work you're doing now, can you say it's enough to carry you into eternity? Meaning that it's done in love for your fellow man and in honor of our King, so that when your reward is handed down in the life to come, he can say, well done, thy good and faithful servant. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the type of stuff I'm trying to go towards. So that's just me. Anyway, I rant too much. Let me get this last call. But I want these rants to carry eternal weight. And the only way I can do that is if I mention the King. Hello, caller. Where are you calling from?
Hey, what's up, Mike? How are you?
Doing well, my man. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Frank from CT.
Frank from CT. What's going on, man?
Not much. Just wanted to touch up on the what you were saying earlier about the Rothschild banking system.
Okay, give it to me.
Well, since the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1913, even before that, banksters, the Rothschilds, they had the first Federal Reserve Bank. It was called the First Bank of America.
Mm-hmm.
You know that, right?
Yep. But that was
Yep.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and then that one of the presidents or the people rebelled, and they got rid of the banking cartel with pitchforks. While after, people have a short memory, they had another bank called the Second Bank of America. And I think it's one of the presidents.
Andrew Jackson.
Was it Jefferson?
Jackson. Okay. The $20 bill, man.
Yeah. So after that, he got rid of that, and then all of a sudden they didn't want people to catch on to it, so they called it the Federal Reserve.
Right. Yep.
And the Rothschilds, they're the ones behind it all. They're the ones with all the money, and they pretty much have all the, all the banks, central banks. They're pretty much under their thumb.
Yeah.
You know, they got the shareholders and stuff, and other banks that on the books, you know, that show shares of the bank, but they're pretty much behind it all.
Right.
And they're pretty much pushing this whole agenda. Everything's done through them. The banks pretty much run everything.
Right.
Okay. The presidents are all puppets. Banks pretty much run everything.
Right.
And the Rothschilds, they're the ones who created Israel.
Right.
Did you ever hear of the Balfour Declaration?
Yep. It was brought to my attention. I think somebody mentioned that a couple shows ago or something like that. I think it was. Yeah. So, you know, I learn something new from the audience all the time. So that's why it's important to connect with people who, you know, think on the same wavelength as you. So I appreciate you, man, for calling in.
Sure. So let me just add on to that.
Yeah.
So England, just to touch up on that, England, the Rothschild said, listen, England said, listen, we currently own Palestine, and we have it under, well, we don't own it, but we have it under our control.
Mm-hmm.
If you get America involved in the world war against Hitler, we'll give you Palestine. And that's how it all started at the creation of Israel. And you can see even on a video clip, Rothschild, he boasts about the creation of Israel and about the creation of the Balfour Declaration about his family.
Yeah, I think I might have seen something, but if not, are you in the Discord or Telegram?
Telegram?
So the social media platform. If you're there, go ahead and join them and then share those videos, man, so we can see them. And that's where I usually grab stuff from and I share as it's passed on to me. So the best way is if you are connected to those social media platforms, Telegram and the Discord, join the community and share that stuff as you come across it. So as you educate yourself, just go ahead and pass it on to us, man.
Yeah. So one more thing. So the Jews over there in Israel, a lot of them follow the Talmud, and I know Steve from Region 9 touched up on this a little bit. It's a very evil book, man. These guys that's the synagogue of Satan over there, man. Israel is the synagogue of Satan. These are very evil people, and they're pushing this whole agenda. They pretty much, what they did is they used up England, got England in debt after all the wars, and they jumped on another parasite. They jumped on something else, another parasite, the USA. They made us fight all these wars, all in the Middle East, to destabilize it for Israel, and got us $30 trillion in bankruptcy. And now they're moved. They used us up, washed us up, used us all up, and now they're jumping on another host, which is going to be China.
Yeah.
They're moving over to China now.
Yeah.
So Israel will be buddies now with China, and they're going to do the same thing they did to us.
Yeah.
Use us for war, use them for wars, run a lot of money, with deficits, and that's the next host they're going to jump on.
Yeah.
They're parasites. They're running the whole thing.
Hey, man,
learn who rules over you. Who rules over you is one you cannot criticize. It's something like that. To learn who rules over you,
right,
is who you cannot criticize.
Right, which makes sense because censorship is very heavy on people who get close to the truth. So, but hey, man, appreciate your calling, my friend. Thanks for your insights.
No problem, Mike.
Be good.
All right.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, man. All right, let's get ready to dial back. We had hour 3. Okay. So, so I see some thoughts out there. It's, no approval says, Mike, you are the real Israel. Okay. And that's where, and that's where, when it comes to, sharing information via chat, I take it all in, what I'm saying? I take it all in. I just let whatever resonates with my spirit, confirm in the spirit. And then I try to go in the word to validate it. But other than that, as I mentioned beforehand, like thinking long-term, as far as letters in red and what I was instructed to do is kind of what I stick to. So however I view myself now, I view myself as a child of God and a joint heir to the throne, and my inheritance is the kingdom, which is what excites me the most because, that whole thing is really exciting to realize what's in store now. And of course, God's power will validate this because if I'm, speaking foolishness, there'll be no manifestation of power in anything I do moving forward. And that's another way to validate the fruit that falls from this tree. And so I'll keep you guys posted as the Lord moves on my behalf because I am anticipating him doing the same thing for you as well. because we're on this journey together, the kingdom train moving forward. So I'll be coming up with so many kingdom metaphors. It's just, yeah, I got, man, it's just, it's fun. Anyway. All right, people. No more calls. Get ready to dial back. As always, I appreciate everybody for blessing me with your presence. If you have not, as of yet, let me just check. Let me check, man. Let me check. Just because I've never want to beg. But then again, I do appreciate those that are willing to be a blessing with something as simple as just, you know, a little bit of boom, a little thumbs up. So it looks like we got 153 or so, 154 thumbs up with 205 people, according to what I see here on the screen. So last call for those that are interested. Hit that thumbs up button one time, and hopefully that alerts more people to join us, because my guess is that more people will definitely love to plug into the show. And I believe the Lord will draw and touch a lot of hearts moving forward to where the community will grow, because this will be the only channel out there pairing two kingdoms and the similarities, but yet the supremacy of one, and how it's eternal and it's yours. Like, you know, the kingdom is yours. Like, you know, what excites me is that I think it's in Luke, if I'm not mistaken, in reference to what we're told to seek. And then how it's, you know, the Lord says it's your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. I'm thinking, like, what do you mean by that? You know, what are you talking about? Like, in natural terms, it's like, okay, well, when I die, of course I get it. But no, to me, I get the fact that he wants me to have something now. And that's what I'm curious to find out. So I'll keep you posted as I find out more about it, because the keys of the kingdom are yours. But if you don't want them and you don't know how to use them keys, what good are keys? So anyway, I can go on and on, but I'm not. But anyway, that being the case, I already dialed back. As always, for those that are still plugged in, join me in prayer. Let's come together the same way the power of darkness is coming together in Davos, Switzerland for their agenda. Let's come together right now in the name of the King who's seated on the throne, man, who rules and reigns for all eternity. And that's the thing. It's just so comforting to know that there's a omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent just creator out there that, you know, I believe has my best interest at heart. You know, just something about that. Like, who's somebody who I believe, this is just me, loves me more than I love myself. That's different. Like, you know, I don't know. I don't know. That's the type of stuff I've been thinking about sometimes. Because I think I love myself, but to think that there's somebody who's operating my best interest that loves me more than I love me, that's different. Anyway, but let's come together for those that are interested. And I believe if we all get an agreement on this prayer, the power will move within this realm and it'll make a difference. So let's just do that for those that want to join. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your presence here right now. Your word says whenever 2 or more or 200 are gathered in your name, you're in the midst of them. Lord, we thank you for your word, for your spirit. We thank you for the renewness of life. We thank you for our inheritance. Help us understand what it means to be a part of a eternal government and all the benefits and all the wonderfulness that comes in being born again. Lord, we thank you for the opportunity, Lord, to just give you praise, honor, and glory. We pray that you be with every single individual dialed in and those who might watch the replay. We pray that your presence is active in everyone's life, that you are glorified in their actions, and that the work and effort they put forth lasts for them and is charged to their account for all eternity, Father. We ask you in the name of your precious and mighty Son, Jesus Christ of Nazareth. Amen. All right, people. That's all she wrote. I'm done. I'm spent. Hopefully the King was glorified. I'm sure he was. And don't stop now. Let it continue throughout your day. And back at it tomorrow, Lord willing. Same time, same place. And you know how I do it. Get your weight up, get your preps up, do everything you can, but most importantly, get your faith up. Get in the word. And I'm thinking about doing, if I can squeeze an early morning word, you know, kingdom morning word sessions where we just focus on the kingdom concept and just see where it takes us. I don't know where the Lord going to take us, but I'm just thinking about that because, you know, it's just a way to hold myself accountable to make sure I get into the word more than I usually do, because I need to increase my word intake. Anyway, just putting the thoughts out there. But anyway, be blessed, be safe. Shalom.